about trends and lessons in working from home. So I'm going to start by talking about working from home before COVID. And we know about this from a fantastic survey run from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that surveyed around 10,000 employed Americans in 2017 and 2018. And what we see is 85% of people never worked from home before COVID, so it's actually quite rare. And of the 15% of people that did work from home before COVID, only 2% were full-time. So before COVID, working from home was rare. When it did happen, it was mostly typically, one day every other week. If you look at who did this before COVID, it was actually very balanced by gender and age, but it was very unbalanced by education and income. So typically before COVID, and indeed during COVID, most of the people working from home tend to be higher educated. They're typically university graduates earning in the top 25%. What about during COVID? So what about now? So I've run a very large survey of 2,500 Americans aged 20 to 64 that were working full-time last year to find out what's happening to the labor market now. And what you see is under COVID, so this survey was run in May and June, 42% of us are currently working from home. So an incredible increase. These are all full-time. 33% of us are not working, which shows how savage the recession has been. And 26% are working on the business premises. So these are basically essential service workers. If you weight this by labor income, how much people earn, you can see this is the red bars. Quite astoundingly, currently around 2/3 of GDP is created by people working from home. So, I have to say, if you told me in January 2020 that by the middle of this year, the US economy would be primarily driven by working from home, I would think you're crazy, but that's basically what's happened. And I should point out, this has been a hugely valuable thing in our fight against COVID because it's enabled the US economy to keep moving, and not perfectly, but keep kind of sludging on while we've had the lockdown. But working from home under COVID is hard. It's far from perfect. In fact, the only reason that so many of us are doing it is actually being in the office is even worse. So what are some of the challenges? Well, one is kids. I have four kids. This is my youngest. She's called Catherine. She's age 4. She's, to me at least, she's incredibly sweet. She comes in all the time asking to play. There's only so much TV a 4-year-old will watch, but it's very distracting and hard to work. The second is job match. So from our survey data, we know only around 1/3 of people can fully efficiently work from home. About 1/3 of people can kind of partly work from home, and 1/3 roughly can't work at all. Given I've just told you 42% of people are working from home, you can figure out there are some people working from home right now that, it's not great. It's not, an ideal situation, but they're kind of effectively getting on with it because it's the best option they have. And then the third challenge is space. Here are 2 pictures of, a couple of Stanford graduate students. And I've been talking to my grad students about the challenges they face. This is quite typical in many ways. Only 49% of Americans have their own room that is not their bedroom. So many people are working in shared rooms and, far from great circumstances. What about post-COVID? Well, working from home post-COVID, I think, is going to be, a fantastic outcome. It's the thing we should look forward to and feel positive about. So US firms predict that post-COVID, they're going to see around 20% of days spent on the business premises. So to give you an idea of this, it's worth thinking about 3 figures. Before COVID, about 5% of working days were at home. During COVID, about 40% of working days were at home. And post-COVID, about 20% of working days are going to be at home. So from pre to during COVID, we've seen an 8-fold increase in working from home. That's going to drop back down, but it's still going to be a 4-fold increase from before COVID. And this is going to make employers on average much happier. Here's different survey data, and it shows that 20% of employees never want to work from home. They're typically younger, single people that live in small apartments. 24% of people want to work from home full time. They're typically older married people with kids that live in houses. And then most of us want to work from home something like, 1 to 4 days a week, with the average being around 2. So if firms move to 2 days a week, that's going to be a lot better for most people. I should say, finally, on COVID, it's going to relocate the modern office, not eliminate it. So it turns out, and I put the link to the blog, that the demand for office space in America post-COVID looks like it's about flat. So a couple of things are pushing down the demand for office space. One is working from home, and the second is the recession. but one thing's pushing it up, which is the demand for more space per person, so social distancing. Net, it turns out they're roughly a wash, and so office demand is roughly flat. What has been changing very rapidly is the shift in demand from space from high rises, skyscrapers in cities like on the left, the picture of Salesforce Tower in San Francisco, to something like on the right, the picture of, the building actually from The Office, the TV show. Why is this happening? Well, on the left, there are two huge problems with skyscrapers. One is, how do you get to the front door? You can't easily use mass transit now, and people are going to be reluctant still post-COVID, we know from our survey data. And secondly, how do you get up to, say, the 25th floor? Because elevators, aren't compatible with social distancing. So if you're interested, here's further reading on a blog post I